All right, let's fire it up with this because I wanted to play a piece of a conversation we had. So on a new podcast that I've launched with Ty Harrington, and it was really my idea for Ty because I talk to Ty all the time about baseball, and I'm like, we need to get this on a podcast because it's just such good content. Because Ty's just brilliant with the baseball, and it's like, you come on with us each week and we talk college baseball, but we need to take this to another level. We need to bring this to the airwaves. And so we did, and now we do it once a week. It's called Talking Ball. It's presented by the law office of David J. Lopez. And this week, Coach Harrington got us in touch with Mike Bianco, who's the head baseball coach at Ole Miss. They're coming to Austin for the first time in that program's history. And we had a good 15-minute conversation with him. I asked him along the way, what did he think when the SEC was, he's been coaching in the SEC since 2000 at Ole Miss. He played at LSU, so he obviously knows the lay of the land in the SEC. When he first learned that Texas and Oklahoma were both coming to the conference and joining, everybody talked about football and what that was going to be, but Mike Bianco knew what it was going to mean for the baseball side of things in the mighty Southeastern Conference.
Buddy, that thought it was really cool, really neat, and not just Texas but Oklahoma as well. And I think about the time, around 22. When we played Oklahoma in the national championship game was about when it was basically finalized that those two programs were coming into the Southeastern Conference. And you're right. So many people talked about football, but when we looked up and go, gosh, when you talk about your conference getting better, I'm not sure if baseball got the best of it in the sense of, two really, really good baseball programs, but obviously the tradition of Texas, longer than Oklahoma in the sense that, from Cliff Gustafson to Augie Garrido and, all the great coaches and now Jim Schlossnagle, they're certainly one of the best programs in the country.
Yours has built into one as well, Coach. And, when you look at your scouting report to start the year, you're now, as you said, 18 games into it with the 15 wins and 3 losses. But the season began, veteran depth was a strength and experience for your guys, offensive firepower, which we've already seen. You got a guy with 10 home runs, guy with 8 home runs. But pitching potential was kind of the conversation around your ball club, that you're anchored by your ace, Hunter Elliott, at the top of the rotation. But a lot of newcomers and integrating that pitching potential and bringing it to the expectations. How have things gone so far, and what have you learned about your club in the first 18 games?
Well, we've really probably since the fall began, really liked this, this team. And I don't know how many coaches don't when you start the fall, but when we started to see the pitching depth and, what it could become, I think it excited all of us. We knew, as you mentioned, position player-wise, we returned, a pretty good crew, especially in today's day of position players. When you look around the infield and you look at Utermark and Randall, Furness, Foley, Federico, not to mention some other guys, some transfers in, Becerra, Decker, Pasella. We thought offensively we had an older lineup, a lineup that we felt really comfortable with. But I think on the mound, it always starts with the starting pitching when you return your Friday night ace. And I don't know for sure, but, one of the few Friday night aces, in the SEC, a guy that won 10 games last year, struck out, over 100 guys. You return that guy, and then you kind of put it around him with a guy like Cade Townsend, who was had just such a so-so freshman year, but you could see that he was, ultra talented, and, there are better days in front of him. He, beat LSU in the SEC semifinals last year. Might have been one of the last guys to beat LSU on their way to the national championship. And so we thought we had enough, and not just high-end talent at the top of the staff, but throughout, and some depth. And I think we showed that last night with some younger guys and some guys that don't pitch as much. That we've pitched it really, really well.
All right, so there's Mike Bianco, and I wanted to play this too because Ty Harrington then, asked his old buddy that he's known a long, long time, to win a national championship. I mean, that's the Longhorns' goal this year. There's no doubt. LSU's won 2 of the last 3. The SEC's won every one this decade, and just his team won one in 2022. Part of that run of SEC teams, different ones winning it. LSU's now won 2 of the last 3. But it's always an SEC team. And Ty asked Mike, Coach Bianco, just how difficult is that to be the last team standing?
To this point, they haven't shown.
Okay, we'll get to that because I'll play that for you next hour because it's pretty good. He just talked about because when you think about it, to be the last team, to win the SEC in baseball is one thing, but to get to Omaha, to be the last team on top is so difficult. And if you remember when his team won it in 2022. there were talk during the year they weren't even going to make the tournament, and there was talk his job could be in jeopardy in 2022. And they got into the tournament and went on our heater and won the whole thing. And that's how it goes. I mean, Texas right now looks like an absolute juggernaut, but at the same time, you got to be playing your best ball a long time from now. You got to get through this 30-game gauntlet of SEC play. You got to get through the SEC tournament, and then hopefully host a super regional if you're Texas, and then the regional, then the super regional, and you got to be the last team standing. And that is what Texas wants to be. And let's hear from Jim Schlossnagle on that front, because he's been in the SEC at Texas A&M. He's been to Omaha many times. He understands the challenge of it and how this works. But, as he said, the teams you're playing change and the level of their ability to play changes, but your plan can't.
The opponent certainly affects the game, but the game remains the same. You still have to throw strikes. You still have to dominate the strike zone. You want to be able to make routine plays. You want to play good situational winning baseball on offense. That doesn't change relative to the opponent.
No matter what.
All right, there's Luke Harrison. Will start Saturday.
Successful. So I think that's kind of the main message to those guys, just that they're more than good enough to go succeed at a high level, and just stay confident no matter what, and just believe in yourself.
All right, so here we go. Texas and Ole Miss. And just heard from Chris Phillips. On the basketball front, the question has been asked, and I think it's fair. Does Texas want to make the tournament? Should they make the tournament? It's become a question all weekend. The bubble, the dreaded bubble. And if you're on the bubble, you're not a great team. I mean, Auburn's going to pound the table a little bit with their head coach, Stephen Pearl, and talk about their resume. And that's what happens this time of year. And coaches should politic, lobby for their team. You've played 4 or 5 months of basketball. You've been together for 6 months trying to do this thing, and you want to put your best foot forward. It's right for a coach. But as we played yesterday, does Sean Miller and his team want to be in? Here's Sean Miller when asked the question. I think you might even hear the question. Where are you guys on this? Do you feel anxiety that you may not get in now? You've left yourself and your chin open with 5 losses in your last 6 games, including Wednesday night against Ole Miss. Here's the question and answer from Sean Miller.
The team, the first 4, are you nervous about not getting in? I have no anxiety, 0, simply because of this. I came to Texas to build into a championship program. There's steps and foundations that have to be laid, processes, failure, really learning what the SEC and the University of Texas is about. This has been a very rewarding, enlightening, and I think when I think back to coming here about end of March last year, there's a lot that happened in a quick manner. When you get to the finality of it, whatever happens, happens, and I'm at peace. However, I think this is a huge moment for us as a program today to be different a year from today.
All right. Did that sound like a coach who's lobbying to get his team more games? He went on to say, yeah, we'd love to be in, and that's the goal, but you got to earn your way in. And I know this was in the immediate aftermath of a very disappointing 10-point loss to a team that only won 4 SEC games all year. But that does not sound – compare that to what Stephen Pearl said. Stephen Pearl is the coach at Auburn, first-year coach. His team is on the bubble, and his team needs help right now. And listen to Stephen Pearl. He's lobbying for his team after their loss.
So we scheduled a really hard, out-of-conference schedule. We had some really quality wins in that streak. If you look at, this tournament is a team of who you can beat. And if you look at, if we're going to look at 6 teams on the bubble right now with Texas, SMU, VCU, Miami of Ohio, Missouri, and New Mexico, we have more top 25 net wins than everyone in that group but Missouri. We have more top 50 wins than everyone in that group.
All right, so there you go. He's lobbying. We beat Florida. We beat good teams. Here's the coach at Miami of Ohio, his team. If you missed this last night, y'all, it's a big development in the bubble watch. They lost. Quarterfinal round to UMass, a 500 team, essentially 17-15 overall, knocked them off. So they're 31-1. But they went 31-0 in the regular season. There are going to be those, including yours truly, who will argue, well, you didn't really beat anybody. Now you didn't win your conference title, so you don't get the automatic bid. Should you get your own bid? Here's the head coach, Travis Steele.
You had a few people say no matter what happened today, you should be in.
Yeah, just like I don't listen to the other people that are saying the other way, I'm not listening to them either. I could care less, man. I live my life one way. I live on my terms, and I don't care about anything else, man. So I care about our guys in our locker room. I'm going to lead them. We're trying to put ourselves in the best position, and we'll let the ball kind of lie where it lies.
All right, so he'll find out. Now, Joe Lunardi of ESPN, the bracketologist, he was on with Scott Van Pelt last night on SportsCenter after Miami of Ohio lost, and he believes they should be in. Here's Scotty Van Pelt with Joe Lunardi.
In, whether they're on a line or they're sent to Dayton. What's your sense of that? At the moment, it seems to me that you feel like they're going to avoid Dayton, yeah?
Well, they're right on the Dayton bubble, if you believe in secondary bubbles.
Yeah, I do.
Scott, I do think they will be in the field, not so much because it's a television show, but because it's the right thing to do. I don't care if they played in the NBA Pacific Division or your neighbor's CYO league. They went 31-0 in Division I. They were undefeated. If we don't include them, we've completely lost the plot of what we're about. Last year, the committee made different metrics more important: wins above bubble and strength of record. That was used to justify the inclusion of North Carolina with a 1-12 quad one record. Well, this year, the Miami Redhawks have a better wins above bubble and a better strength of record than all of the other bubble teams they're competing against. So what's good for the goose, you know the rest of the story.
All right, so there, and here's where you're getting to the weeds, folks. When you hear the metric wins above bubble, so what that is a metric that says how many more wins overall do they have than the teams that are on the bubble with them. And right now, think about that. I mean, this is blowing my mind. It's like, wait a second. So yes, they have 31 wins, and Texas has 18 overall. So yeah, that's significant. That's 13 more wins than Texas has. Should that get Miami of Ohio in? Despite the fact that in the season, even though it didn't look like they wanted to be in on Wednesday, Texas has beaten 7 teams that are in the quad one. 7. They've played in 15 or 16 quad one games. They've played in more quad one games than any team in the country, or one of the top 3. And they've won 7 times. You just heard Stephen Pearl arguing for his team for their wins. But Miami of Ohio, if you're asking me how many do they have 0. Miami of Ohio has played in 0 quad 1 games and won 0, obviously. They've only won 2 quad 2 games, where Texas has played, they've won 7 and they've played in about 15 or 16 quad 1 or 20 quad 1 or 2 games, and Texas has won a good number of those. So it's, again, who you have beaten. But to Joe Lunardi's point, this is what we're in this for. I don't care what conference you played in. Well, isn't that why they put the analytics out there and the metrics out there? Like, who did you actually beat? Yes, 31 wins is impressive, but against who? He said something about the NBA's divisions. Well, the NBA's these are all pro teams. There's only 30 of them. They're all professionals. There is a delineation and a difference in the talent levels in one conference versus another. That's indisputable. And I understand and I'm not going to be mad if Miami, Ohio is in. I'm just saying, and he is basing it on precedent from last year with North Carolina, and that's a blue blood who shouldn't have gotten in. But they did because they're North Carolina. Should Miami of Ohio get in out of the Mid-American Conference because they went 31-0 but beat 0? Because look, when you say quad 1, that means a really quality team. You can put a label on it. Quad 1 means really good team. Quality, proven quality team. Over the course of 3 or 4 months, they're a quality team. They played 0, beat 0, and played only 2 quad 2 teams, and that's Akron and somebody else. So, again, they played a whole different schedule. Should that to be taken into account? We'll find out what this committee decides on Sunday, because that's when the brackets will be revealed. And does Texas get in? It's impossible for me to sit here and pound the table about this because I don't really think they belong in. But I will pound the table on the idea that who you've beaten is more important than the number of wins you have. We do this in college football now, where Indiana's won the national title, but their non-conference schedule and their schedule, just because you have 12 wins versus 10 wins and 2 losses, that doesn't make you a more accomplished team. We're going to play in the tournament to decide who's the better team and who's going to win the championship, but who gets in, I think should be weighted heavier on who you've actually played and beaten. Like to Stephen Pearl's point, at Auburn, they scheduled really tough teams in the non-conference. If Miami of Ohio thought they had this really good team, well, schedule some quad 1 teams in the non-con. Play some teams. Your schedule is lame, period. And, here you go. But they'll probably get in. There's 64 to 68 slots in the play-in games. But Texas is on that bubble now. And Miami of Ohio losing, because that does mean whoever wins the Mid-American Conference tournament will get an automatic bid. and they're going to take a spot that could be Texas's or Auburn's, and if you're going to put Miami of Ohio in, then the Mid-American's getting 2. And that's going to knock one of those teams out that you heard Stephen Pearl mention, including the Longhorns.